Their World Cup history has only improved, and clearly the investment into football in the nation has proved its worth over the last two tournaments. We've seen in terms of what they did in 2018, the group stage performance, their fourth place finish in 2022 in Qatar, as earlier mentioned, and now quarter-finalists again in 2026, showcases the direction not only African football is taking, but Morocco is taking as a powerhouse across world football. Flowers to them, because their fans have come here and showcased what they can do. They put their culture on front street. Of course, their football was speaking loud and direct. But how do you reflect on Morocco's performance now they are out of the tournament?
Yeah, I think you take different slices of their experience. The first half against Brazil in particular, I thought was immense. I thought they played like the Brazilians are known for ultimately. And Brazil not necessarily looking like their stereotypical Jogo Bonito. But so I was really impressed with them. They got a draw on that one. So it kind of spoke to kind of that next hurdle in their evolution. Can they close out games that they should win? And then when they played the Netherlands, they were down in that game, and they found a way to get back into it. Issa Diop had that header, and then they go on to win in penalties. So they found different ways and showed different personalities to get through. However, I was disappointed in their performance against France. It just didn't have enough to really make France suffer. France pretty much doing whatever they wanted throughout the whole game. That needs to be looked at. They need to reflect on that. However, they got some really good young players. The future is really bright. Got Bouadi, who is one of the young superstars that I thought stood out. You got Ben Seguir, who maybe didn't get as many minutes, but is a top player. El Khanous, Talbi. Like you start, they're 20, 21, 18 for Bouadi. So when you start to think about what it's going to look like moving forward, yeah, they're probably going to still remain in the conversation with regard to being someone or being a team that nobody wants to face. Ultimately, though, when I think about yesterday, just Ismail Saibari not being available up top, I thought hurt them a ton. And that's an area that they need to think about, because when Rahimi came in or whoever, they want to try to put a false nine there. It just doesn't look the same. So that's an area they need to focus on.
All them building blocks are going in the right direction, leading to, of course, them being the host in 2030. Talking about being the host, I need to talk about my boy Nico Cantor, who's been on the road and hosting everybody in terms of where you've been. Nico, we need an update first for where you are location-wise, and also as someone who integrated so well with those Moroccan fans, give me your reflection in terms of now their exit is confirmed.
Yeah, JayDee, listen, we are somewhere in North Carolina at the moment, making our way down to Miami for tomorrow's England against Norway, so it should be fun. We're going to check out the other quarterfinal between Belgium and Spain today in the RV, so it's been a long trip overnight to Miami. And with the Moroccan fans, listen, they showed up in Massachusetts, in Boston. I don't know if you guys know, but the biggest community of Moroccans in the United States is in Massachusetts, and it's not only the Moroccans, but it's the biggest Amazigh community, the Berbers, the native people of North Africa that predates any Arabic civilization, right? So it is very Moroccan coded. You see in the images here, this was the party right before the match. They're very proud of their country. They are so welcoming, and they are so ready to put on a show and express this culture. And here in the United States, there's no better place to do it, especially at the World Cup. So they leave with their heads held high because they lost to a force like I've seen very few times on the World Cup stage, which is France, and we can break that down.
Yeah, France, so good in every facet of the game, especially yesterday. But talking specifically about Morocco, Nico, would you say that this version of them in 2026 was better than what we saw in 2022 when they surprised everybody?
It's a really good question, Jimmy, because I think from a collective perspective, or at least, let's say this, from a style perspective, I like this Morocco team more, despite them not finishing in fourth place like they did in 2022. I was talking to a lot of Moroccans, and I think when you compare it to Regragui, which is the coach on the left, I think Ouabi, who is the coach on the right, has given Morocco a lot of freedom, a lot of liberty to interpret the game as they see fit. It's a very Moroccan style of play, like the kids balling on the street, to have that quality, to showcase that skill. Regragui was a very pragmatic manager. But Jimmy, I think the irony of yesterday is that if they played a little bit more like Regragui and a little bit less like Ouabi, they probably would have gotten more out of this game, because they were trying to play out of the back yesterday, and France was pressing them high, and they weren't able to string long sequences together in order to free up a Hakimi on a long run, a Unahi. Obviously, playing with a false nine didn't help. So it became a little bit difficult. I think Ouabi was trying to showcase his style of football against the best team in the world, and it just didn't work because, like you said, Jimmy, they didn't produce enough. And I would have liked to have seen a Morocco that was a little bit more threatening.
It makes me wonder which the players prefer, which style they prefer, right? Because there is some efficiency in sitting in a low block and trying to hit on the counter and actually trying to play.
Yeah,
Personally,
right.
for me, I like trying to play. Like, let's just go toe-to-toe, and if you're better than me on the day, fair enough. But to sit back and just...
It's so interesting because I preferred actually being in a low block. I actually preferred being in transition against teams and hurting them in a different way because you can kind of sense the arrogance and then which turns into complacency against teams. But which one did you think that you saw, Nico, that they preferred?
I think these Moroccan players that are supremely talented, that are playing in top European leagues, prefer playing like Ouabi. Ouabi won the U20 World Cup against Argentina. He is a very smart manager. He is a very tactical manager. But sometimes when you go up against the best team in the world, it doesn't show. Perhaps, this is a learning point for him where he has to say, listen, perhaps we need to adapt. Perhaps we need to have that strong defensive facet to our game that allowed us to be so successful in the World Cup in Qatar 2022. So if I feel like this is a much more Moroccan-coded team than the one before, because, we know, right, the typical image of North African football, these dribblers, these top skilled players, you see it across the region, but then it all needs to come collectively together. And I think Morocco has that. Yesterday it was a matter of obviously not being threatening enough, but being met with a team that was so overwhelming. And on top of that, I think France played like at 80%. I haven't seen them play at 100% this World Cup yet. I think they're so rife with talent that they're not even going full throttle yet.
and I agree.
I'm scared. Don't you think, Jimmy?
Yeah, no,
I'm scared to say we might not possibly see them at 100% at the entire World Cup, and they could win it.
And that's what's scary. Nico, you're so right. You hit the nail on the head. We don't know in terms of how far or how good this France team can be. But one thing I've learned about me and you this year is that we've got a lot of passport miles in terms of the travels we've been on. I vividly remember you going to Morocco. Yeah. I vividly remember the way that they embraced you. So think about the next cycle now for Morocco in 2030. What is the excitement? What's it going to be like in terms of the expectations going to that one as a host nation?
Yeah, guys, definitely. I think the world knows a lot about football in Spain, football in Portugal. Obviously, they have teams that are competing in Champions League, and we know about the infrastructure, the new stadiums. Spain is still battling as a host nation to submit which stadium they want for their final. Morocco is everything but that. Morocco is united, and they have what is being built, the biggest stadium in the world. The biggest football stadium in the world. You did not hear me incorrectly. That's going to be in Casablanca, just outside. And when you talk about football nation, these guys breathe football. Anywhere you go, the little kids, they know everything about football. They want to discuss football. They want to discuss tactics. They're playing football. There's pitches everywhere. We talked about the grassroots revolution that this nation produced, and you could see it coming to fruition. But on top of that, it's the infrastructure, right? It's how they're going to welcome the world and allow you to visit Morocco. Right now, there's a train that only kind of connects on the west coast of the country, so from like Casablanca to Tangier. The train is going to connect everywhere in Morocco. So you'll be able to get to Marrakesh. You'll be able to go back to Rabat, the capital. You'll be able to go to the north on the border with Spain in Tangier. And when I talk about train, I'm not just saying like a train, right? The Moroccan train kicks Amtrak's ass. It is like night and day, right? I was sitting on the train, and you would think I cannot believe I'm sitting on a train in Africa. It is at the top level of any European nation. It's honestly all credit to Morocco, because it's a country with very little natural resources that has been able to be at the forefront of change in sport, of revolution in their national football team, with the ability to host a World Cup. So I'm looking forward to it because I think out of the 3 countries that host it, or 6 really, because we've got those first games in Uruguay, Paraguay, and Argentina. Don't even get me started with that. But of the 3 main hosts, I think Morocco's the more underrated, and I think a lot of people are going to fall in love with a football crazy country like Morocco is.
So Nico, that sounds like a really long pitch to do coast to coast in 2030 using the train system in Morocco. Just throwing that out there, big guy.
I'm ready. Hey, I'm ready. And you know what? I can start training for the swim across the channel into Spain, and then we could do trains into Spain. And every time I need to switch into Morocco, I'll swim.
I love that. That's a really good idea. Maybe I'll join you on that. I got 4 years to start training.
Yes.
So
yes.
Nico, let's talk
Come
about
with me, Jimmy.
Let's talk about the future then of Moroccan football and what we've seen. Obviously, they got some top young players. I mentioned them earlier, but now that they get knocked out a little sooner than maybe they hoped, do they get into this downward spiral of like, oh, it's our pay-to-play system. Our domestic league isn't producing enough players like we do over here. Like, what kind of reaction do you think they'll have, and what does the future look like for Morocco moving forward?
I think they keep on the same path, Jimmy. Anybody can lose to France. Probably everyone will lose to France. I don't think one result is indicative of the journey that they're on in their football revolution. Listen, they've been getting to AFCON finals. They've been competing at every tournament that they play, and at all levels as well, right? Obviously, I think the men's national team needs a title to show for their people, and on paper they got it at AFCON, but if we keep on looking forward towards other tournaments, they still need to be vying to win AFCONs. They still need to be vying to win U20 World Cups, which they've already won and it's in different disciplines, Jimmy, in beach soccer, in futsal, in men's and women's AFCON, women's futsal AFCON. Anything that they compete in, they're trying to win. And I don't think one World Cup loss is worthy of all right, back to the drawing board, mass panic, what are we doing? Let's reflect on everything that's gone wrong. No, I think everything is probably trending in a very positive direction. It's very well thought out. It's very organized. And when you put a footballing project, and I wouldn't even call it a footballing project, I would call it a sports project, a national sports revolution, together like that, and it is organized, it is well thought out, eventually it'll give you dividends. And for Morocco, it's given them many dividends at the youth level throughout so many disciplines, men's and women's. So they're going to keep on going at this because they're doing well.